How's it going, guys and geeks? Welcome back to the Geekritique show. We're your hosts. I'm Jenn.
I'm Dakota.
And it's been quite some time since you've seen us do a Who review.
Right, yeah, we've last season, for series 10, we did one for every episode, and then we did quite a few after that for some of the classic episodes and even some of the new Who episodes that we missed for the Who review series. But if you want to see more Who review series, we'll leave a playlist after this video so you can check out more of that. But in general, I feel like it's been a long time since we've even been on this couch. Even though, I mean, to you it hasn't been that long, but for us, we've been so busy, especially with Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. I just want to be the first to say thank you to our amazing subscriber base. Not every one of you saw every one of our videos, and that's totally fine. We totally expected that. But we posted 12 videos for Comic-Con weekend. We expected such a huge drop-off from our subscriber base that we were so surprised so very few of you actually did unsubscribe. And we totally understand if those people did unsubscribe. You want a certain type of content. You're not getting that content. But we are happy to have been there on the show floor at Comic-Con talking about all the geeky stuff that we were seeing and reviewing, and we actually even got to see the first episode of Series 11 at Comic-Con. And
yes.
I don't know if you guys saw that video. We'll link it right here if you want to check that out. But we reviewed basically our first thoughts. And we were on a train, and that was totally coincidental. It had nothing to do with the fact that the episode had a train. We were taking trains every day in and out of the city to get to near Comic-Con. This is our Who review. It's different from that first thoughts review.
So typically we have a discussion. We kind of bounce, back and forth off of each other after watching the episode twice. And we decide if we liked it or not and try to get, some of the meanings and, little things that we would have missed had we just watched it once, try to really get
right. We try to talk into it. We try to get into the thematic tones of the episode. We try to dig into some of the potential plot holes that the episode could provide. Mm-hmm. And usually there are a few. I think there may be a few for this one that we might dig into. Ultimately, it's almost like a weighted scale of what is good and what is bad in this particular episode of Doctor Who, or in this particular arc or series in Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I know a lot of you really liked the first episode. I know if you really didn't like the first episode of Series 11.
Yeah, it's funny because we didn't want to do a review. First of all, we always watch the episode twice before doing a review. But second of all, it's hard not to be biased when you're watching the episode with the Doctor herself. And, everybody's laughing at all the appropriate parts, cheering at all the appropriate parts. Your enthusiasm.
Clapping.
There's so much more enthusiasm when you're watching it with, a couple hundred people.
A couple thousand people.
Oh, really? That was...
At Madison Square Garden. It's a huge place, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to be unbiased. So that's why we didn't want to do a review then. But a lot of people wanted to know our thoughts, so we just did, our first gut reaction.
And like we said, we were in the same room as the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker herself, the showrunner, Chris Chibnall. Mm-hmm. So
we heard their interviews, and...
It was exciting. It was just an exciting
It was very
moment.
Personal, too. It was very intimate in a way. Even though you're watching it with a couple thousand people or whatever, it's more intimate because they're there and they're just as excited as you are. Chris Chibnall looked like he was going to cry several times.
Oh, man.
And it's hard because I know Dakota was very nervous when we found out that he was going to be the new showrunner, right?
Right. I've been nervous this whole time, obviously.
Because of his history with Doctor Who.
With his history with Doctor Who, I was nervous with the 13th Doctor herself being cast, not just because she's a woman, but because it's just a new era of the show. So it's exciting and scary, and this Who review right here is trying to encompass all that within the confines of what we saw in the first episode. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about it from, not necessarily beginning to end, but we'll start at the beginning. And if you guys missed some of our review from last time, we'll cover a little bit of the same stuff, but we'll dig a little bit deeper. So I want to talk a little bit about Ryan Sinclair at first. We see him, he starts the episode off, he's on YouTube. Then we see him trying to ride a bike. He looks like a full adult. We don't fully know how old he is, but he's at least out of school. He's at least an adult, we can say. And he's not able to ride a bike. That's something most people learn at ages 4, 5, or 6.
he has dyspraxia, which they explained at the beginning of the episode, and to be honest, I had no idea what that was.
I didn't either.
You know, and as the episode goes on, they explain that his motor skills basically fail him. So it's something that he struggles with. And again, you know, the panel that we saw really contributed to my appreciation of that scene, because a girl actually went up and, you know, asked why Chris Chibnall put, you know, somebody with dyspraxia in the show, and apparently his nephew has it.
Right.
And the girl said, I actually have that, and she was really, you know, happy to be represented and all of that. But she also said that she appreciated, you know, later on in the episode that he's still struggling with it, and he doesn't learn how to ride a bike by the end of the episode. So she, you know, he said basically it's going to continue that way. And I think that's kind of cool, because in so many shows, someone will have some kind of issue and you're expecting it to get resolved. Whereas with this, you know, he'll mentally overcome it in some ways or try to find ways around it, but it's not going to go away, because that's not how this works. Which is, I think, really interesting.
I saw a lot of people commenting on the fact that there were no strong male characters in this episode, but we only had strong female characters.
Oh, really?
I mean, I guess you can make that argument, but we don't know enough about the females to
I
really
actually
make
thought
that
he
argument.
was a strong male character.
And that's the point I want to make right here. Just because he has a flaw, just because he has a physical or mental disability, does not mean that he isn't a strong character. Being able to overcome that, obstacle, to help the doctor, to help save the day, ultimately, that was super cool. The fact that he, when questioned if he was okay with climbing, when he was questioned if he was okay with heights, he didn't bat an eye. He went straight for it. He climbed up a crane, of all things.
I wouldn't go up that. I don't think I would have gone up that. Like, honestly, if people who have seen some of our other videos know I'm not a fan of heights.
Right.
I don't think without dyspraxia, I would have been able to confidently climb that. If I had dyspraxia, I would have just probably, like, you know, went inside that little building and watched through the windows or something. I don't know.
I don't know how dyspraxia works. I don't know if, like, you're significantly distracted or you have a goal in mind, if that will help you in accomplishing whatever you need to do with your motor functions. But the fact that, like, even after he slipped and, like, fell off a rung, he kept going, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The fact that he kept going to help. And then even when he got on top, that's when it, like, really, like, set in, like, oh, I can't be here. I love that. That's really cool.
I also liked his ability to take accountability for his actions after he, you know, touched the thing. He admits, I did that. And then, you know, when facing Tim Shaw, he says, you know, like, that was me, but I revoke. You know, he fully took accountability, which I think takes a lot of strength. Like, usually people would try to, like, nobody was there to witness that. He could have just said, like, I didn't know what I was doing, but he instead...
He could have just kept quiet.
And
let the...
I think he was a really strong male character. That's interesting. Also, too, you know, maybe I'm biased because we're YouTubers, but I think, you know, to go onto YouTube when you don't have a fan base, especially, and talk about how your grandma died, I think that's a pretty strong thing to do. Especially, he only had like 19 views, and 2 people like disliked it, which I thought was really sad.
Typical YouTube.
Like, what's wrong with you guys?
I mean,
like...
this video will inevitably get 2 dislikes just because we're slightly favorable towards the episode.
Yeah, like, this is like a lose-lose, because like, no matter if you like it or you don't like it, someone's gonna be pissed at you.
Right.
Like, in a very extreme way. So we're trying to stay balanced.
And I think we are balanced, because there are things in this episode that we didn't like. So let's talk a little bit about Tim Shaw, because there are things we did like about Tim Shaw and things we didn't like about Tim Shaw.
Namely, we like that his name was Tim Shaw.
I think you like that his name was Tim Shaw. It's actually not Tim Shaw, it's Zim Shaw. But the doctor didn't understand it with, like, the way
I thought she was, like, belittling him.
Maybe.
Like,
I mean, I'm sure she
Tim
was a
Shaw?
little bit. I'm sure she was trying to belittle him a little bit, but... yeah, I like the idea of, like, him having all the, like, teeth just implanted in him, but, like, did he just have to, like, really, like, stick them in there, and, like, did they just stick?
Yeah, that was kind of stupid, and it's like, okay, how many humans has he killed? Because those looked like mainly human teeth.
They did look very human,
and he had a crap ton of them on his face. Like, we know he killed that other dude's sister, but
that's,
like, how has he gone this long undetected?
How likely is it that all of those alien races, like, have humanoid teeth.
I mean, yeah, I think they just could have used... I thought it was, like, an interesting look, but I feel like they could have used, like, different colored teeth or something, because it just looked kind of... It makes you think, like, how many humans has he killed? But
even his own teeth were black.
Yeah, exactly, because if he had maybe, like, humanish-looking teeth, it would have been, like, some of his own kind. But it's like, nope, none of your own kind, so you've, like, gone... Like, maybe he just has a thing for white teeth. He's, like, a collector, so he goes to all the planets that have white teeth. He did have an interesting personality.
Right. It was very proud, obviously, a very proud alien personality, but he also was a bit of a cheat. He cheated his way into finding that one person. I forget his name. Brian, I think his name was. I like Brian a lot. I mean, obviously he's an annoying character. I like the fact that he listens to those, like, self-empowerment.
He's like the last person that you would expect to see in that kind of show. He's like the antithesis of what, like, Doctor Who fans want to be. Like, the boring person who's just, like, working at their dad's job and, like, listening to self-help books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, usually you think of, like, Doctor Who fans more, like...
And I've met people like that, where they are just so unfit for a job, but because their dad owns the company, they do it anyway, because it's an easy gig.
Yeah, like, you easily, like, get a decent job doing that. But for him, it's, like, even funnier because he's afraid of heights.
Right.
So it's, like...
I thought the contrast between, like, him wanting to be valued and wanting to be important to the alien, Tim Shaw, literally valuing him and making him the important trophy to collect and bring back home. I thought that was just clever. I don't know. I like that. I like that a lot.
So why don't we talk a bit about, you know, the other companions, like new companions. Mm-hmm. What did you think about
Yasmin Khan?
Yasmin Khan.
We don't know enough about her yet for me to really form an opinion. I like the fact that she seems gung-ho about, like, wanting more to do. Wanting more first-hand experience in helping or aiding people as a police officer. So when she's inevitably, like, intertwined with the Doctor and her plot to save the Earth of Tim Shaw, I think it's just kind of like perfect coincidence for her to like get that role. Like she finally finds a way to overcome just being like a traffic dispute cop.
I feel like she did a lot of like non-policey things though. Like, I don't know much about police work in the UK, but to me she seemed to like not do a couple of basic things that I would think that a good police officer ought to have. Like, right. I get that the Doctor's telling you, like, let's investigate more, but she never calls in backup.
That's true.
Ever. Like, did she ever do that? Like, is that lady's corpse still sitting in that train, like, somewhere in the middle of nowhere?
Not only
like, what if other trains are coming? Like, they need to know. They need to know if there's a train stopped on the tracks. Like, that's really dangerous.
That's a good point. Actually,
it's super dangerous.
No one was really like informed that there was just a train.
Like, I get derailed. What the Doctor's saying, but like you're actually making the situation more dangerous in order to protect your own pride, which to me is kind of weak.
And we're not just trying to like find and like pick out like pockets of like just poor writing for her in this case. This is what we do in Who Review. We would do it with or without this like pretense of like, well, all the female characters are strong and all the male characters are weak. But there were certain things, like you said, that she just didn't do correctly.
Even in the first watch, I thought, like, that's not a good idea. I mean, I get what the Doctor is saying in a sense, like, even at, you know, my job, you need to make sure you have all of your stuff together and you know what you're talking about before you go to your superiors, because if not, you'll look like an idiot and you'll feel like an idiot. So I get that to an extent, but eventually, you know, the police should have been notified. Like, at some point, like, somebody else should have been notified. Because of the train situation. Like, that's
or
scary.
Notify the police when you get to that warehouse and that guy is just dismembered, his jaw's broken, and he's been, like, freeze-dried by Tim Shaw before going around his, like, little warehouse and, like, putting all your greasy fingerprints all over things. No, literally, like, going on his computer with your fingerprints. It looks
so bad.
It's just bad.
Like, you're never gonna make it as a policewoman if you keep doing that. Like,
they know you were here, and they know you didn't, like, phone it in. There are cameras all over the place.
It was just, yeah, like,
there's
that was
no
cringy.
way. There's no way that guy, like, like thought to like turn off the cameras after he was killed. So those cameras are still running. They have all that CCTV footage, but
it was like that to me was pretty bad. I mean, other than that, I didn't have any problems with her character.
Yeah, we're picking on it a little bit at this point, but I do like where they're going with the character. Obviously, that's just
I like that she has a lot that she could learn from the Doctor.
Right. Yeah.
But they should have notified the police about the train incident. I'm just saying that's really dangerous.
There's a lot of dangerous things that they should have alerted the local authorities to. Okay, stupidest scene in the entire episode. Eat my salad.
What was up with that guy? There is no point to that.
What is that? That scene could have been... They could have deleted that scene.
Who gets drunk and orders a salad and then throws it around because they don't like it? Like, what if you're drunk, you're ordering, like, a burger.
Maybe it was a burger that had too much, like...
Lettuce
and tomatoes on it, but, like... He called it a salad.
Yeah, he said, eat my salad.
Eat my salad.
Eat my shorts.
It's just such a bizarre... It could have been entirely deleted and we wouldn't have known any better. It didn't add a single thing to the episode besides...
Tim Shaw kills people.
Besides, like, he's a bad guy. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that just made him a little more menacing almost, but, like, in the stupidest way I could have possibly thought. I don't want this episode to be just like a ragging on Chris Chibnall, because I have to give him credit. For the most part, it is solidly written throughout.
Yeah.
There are pockets of real stupidity in there. That's okay. I can let that slide.
I mean, overall, I did like the episode. I'm just saying, like...
Even on a second viewing, it was still enjoyable.
It. Yeah, I think we still liked it, second time around, but... some of the things that annoyed me the first time became, like, more glaringly
more
annoying.
apparent. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's talk about Graham. Or let's talk about Ryan's Nan.
Ryan's Nan, the nurse.
The nurse that, like, helped Graham to get back from chemotherapy, and, like, they eventually found love, and they've been together for 3 years. And she's a very positive influence on Ryan. Yaz even appears to know her. She even, like, introduces herself as, "Hi, Ryan's Nan," like, exactly what Ryan would have called her Nan. So I like that. There's some clear character development already in place there, or rather character relationship. But what about her did you like or didn't like?
I really liked her personality. I liked that the continuity, I guess, like, a lot of the things that she said, you could tell she was in the medical field without them making it glaringly obvious until she said, "I'll contact the other nurses." It's not like as soon as you met the character, it's like, "Yeah, we met when I was in chemo and she was a nurse." Like, it wasn't like
right,
that
there
ever.
were certain... I didn't even notice that. There were certain lines that she said, like, when that guy was dismembered.
She said, "Even I haven't seen,
yeah, like, I've never seen any injuries like this."
And that's when I realized she was, like, in the medical field, because you're implying you've seen a lot of injuries.
Right.
Which I thought it was really well done. I liked her personality a lot. I thought she was really funny. And I think they almost want you to really like her because, kind of like, Graham said at the end of the episode, like, she should have been here, not me. Because I think a lot of people think that because his character seems pretty dull. But right. I think they're going to... obviously, like, that's how life happens. The people that you don't, expect to be in certain positions will be, and all that stuff. But I think, some of the things that she saw in him will be highlighted as the series goes on. Right.
We haven't seen too much out of Graham at this point.
He seems kind of grumpy.
He seems grumpy. He seems apprehensive to, I guess, not relinquish power. I don't want to say that, but he feels like the old guy, and he doesn't want the kids to get in trouble. And I can understand that sentiment. But he's also, I don't want to say wimpy, but he's the most reluctant to do anything in this episode.
He's very, like, self-preserving.
Right.
And I think because he's almost at his life, he knows what it's like to feel like you're about to die, so.
That's interesting. I didn't think about that. Yeah, he knows what it's like to almost die. He knows what it's like to have been at, like, that close to death.
He treasures his life, so he doesn't want to lose it.
That's interesting. Thank you for pointing that out. I totally wouldn't have even... It would have gone over my head.
I'll be here all week.
Please be here longer. That's interesting. I like that, actually. that's not necessarily the trait of someone who is a weak character. Maybe in a drama, maybe in an action adventure. That
maybe
isn't.
If they're a Slytherin.
Maybe if they're Slytherin. But, like, that's not something that, in an action adventure story, you would naturally have characters like that, saving the day or helping. Mm-hmm. But in reality, there's a lot of people like that, who are reluctant to help, but are genuinely good people, you know? Mm-hmm. So I hope that throughout the course of Series 11, and maybe even afterwards, we get to see more of Graham's character. And I want to see how his arc develops. Will he continue to be that very, like, middling and reluctant grandpa type character, or will he be trying to live up to his late wife's, like, memory and, like, try to come out of his shell?
And like I said before, I think he has certain qualities that we haven't seen yet. Like, she saw in him when he was at death's door. So maybe he's the type of person who kind of gets stronger the more difficult things get. She
did say, "Don't be scared," when I'm not around. So is that like a natural quality to him?
Yeah, maybe.
Does she give him courage? I want to see that developed a little bit. I want to see where that goes. That I thought that was an interesting line. Speaking of that line, I just want to say I really didn't like the fact that she had to die.
It did feel like a plot device.
It was a plot device. It definitely was a plot device. She definitely didn't need to die for the three of those characters to have been taken. She literally could have been in the room, just, like, slightly farther away, and the three TARDIS companions could have been sucked away with the 13th Doctor, and she could have just been like, "Wait!" or something like that. And
well, I mean, I think they wanted her to die
to give them a common...
Yeah, more of a... I like the fact that all the companions knew each other already. Mm-hmm. I thought that was actually really smart to do with so many companions, just because it gets a lot of that, like, awkward, like, banter small talk out of the way.
Right, okay.
You do kind of feel like she has to die in order for them to all feel, like, united in something also, I guess.
That's fair.
But I didn't think it needed to happen in such a dumb way. When she was in the ladder, or when she was, like, in the crane or whatever with the stick, you know, and all the electricity is everywhere.
She was climbing up, like, the side, not even, like, the ladder side, just, like, the like, beam side of the crane.
Dakota said, "This is OSHA's worst nightmare."
It really is.
Like, I don't know if, like, for you guys in the UK, if you know what OSHA is, but that's, like, for any construction site, that's...
Like worker standards that people have to, like,
the safety laws.
The safety laws.
You have to, like, go through testing and stuff like that if you're going to work on any kind of construction. And I laughed a lot.
Because
it was just, it was like a construction worker's nightmare, what she was doing, like an electrician's nightmare.
Blatantly dangerous thing to do that she didn't need to do. I don't feel like she needed to do it, because we don't know what that thing was doing, first of all.
Well, I don't think she did either. I think she just, like, wanted to be, like, heroic. Like, she wanted to do something. Like, maybe she's not the type of person who could just, like, stand on the sidelines. And I'm like that in a sense, so I get
selfish. I felt what she did was selfish.
Yeah, I wouldn't say selfish.
Okay, it's simultaneously selfless and selfish, because she didn't give anyone else a say in what she did. She knew that Ryan was like relying on her. In one way or another. We don't know, like, how independent he is or not, but she has family. She just married this guy. I just felt it was like, yes, she was trying to save the day, but at the same time, she was being selfish in trying to save the day.
I think in that type of moment, you're not really thinking about all the repercussions. You're just trying to do what you can. So I don't picture her realizing she was going to die. But I just thought it was kind of stupid. Like, what was that thing going to do? Or maybe we're missing something. But the last time it kind of seemed to, like...
It's likely that they, like, deleted some scenes to make it fit
for
that,
because
like, hour.
They had all stopped it together in a similar way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But what would it have done had it been left...
to its own devices? We don't know.
I don't think she knew that. So it's like, what's the big deal? Because the reason why I thought the first time around
like its job was already done.
Because I thought, like, the reason why they had to stop it was because they had those things in their necks.
But then they didn't.
So, I don't know. Unless, comment below if I'm missing something.
So let's talk about Jodie Whittaker, the 13th Doctor. I think our thoughts are kind of the same as in our previous video. We really enjoyed her character.
Yeah.
There wasn't a moment where we thought this isn't the Doctor.
I loved her. I thought she was great.
She has the quirkiness of Matt Smith. She has the enthusiasm of David Tennant, and like some of the just loudness of Peter Capaldi, and just a dash of like a bunch of other Doctors in her, and
while still feeling very new.
Well, yeah, I mean, every Doctor has that like magic to them where they just feel fresh and original, and she totally made it her own, and I like that so much about it. The writing felt very similar to other Doctors' writing, just the quirky randomness that they say, especially in their first episodes. Everything, like from the moment she was like, "It's on the tip of my tongue."
Well, she was like, "What is this thing?" Tongue. Good.
Right, tongue. What did you think about when she finally uttered, "I'm the Doctor"?
That's hard because I saw a lot of people online saying like they felt like it fell flat and all of that, but when we were there at the panel, it was
great.
Awesome, and everybody cheered, and it was so much fun. And then we were just watching it again, and I still
had
really
that
excited.
Euphoria when she said it. Not euphoria, but
and
like
you know, she was like sitting in the balcony watching it with you. Like it was super cool. Yeah. So I don't know if we're ones to. I guess like our big experience, you know, watching the first episode there did cement that moment in my mind as being really awesome.
Really iconic almost. But it was, it's hard to remove that experience from watching the episode again.
So I don't want to lie and be like, oh yeah, now I could see how it fell flat to some people, because I really can't, because it was so cool for me. So I'm sorry. I don't have an unbiased opinion on that.
I love how they're trying very hard to make the Doctor a very hands-on type of character, type of person, versus other incarnations previously where just a wave of the magic wand gets everything saved, everything fixed. Previous Chibnall episodes literally ended with, everything's back to normal. Power of 3 is the absolute worst New Who ending or third arc in any episode. It blows me away. Like, some people really like that episode, or some people, I get like the build up in that episode is a really interesting thing, but the ending to the Power of 3 is literally Matt Smith waving his sonic screwdriver, his magic wand, at a computer, and then like, everything's back to normal, and then he says a few things, and like, okay, episode's over. That's the Power of 3. Literally, that's the episode. It is so bad. This episode, I really liked how hands-on they were about, like, even like in the creation of a new sonic screwdriver. Yes, I hope they don't make it like a end-all be-all like time saver or a plot device. But she had.
Well, she expressed too that it was more of a tool.
Right, and I hope it is a tool. I hope it isn't just like, this is the only thing I can do to get the job done sort of tool. But so far I like where they're going. She's a very hands-on Doctor. She's a very industrious character that I like, and they actually like talk about a little bit about that in the panel that we went to, where she like actually worked on everything by herself.
She did her own welding.
And forging,
which I didn't believe, and then we were just watching it and I'm like, oh my god, that's totally her.
Yeah, she did it. That's really cool that she like wanted to do that.
I mean, not that she actually built a sonic screwdriver, but of
course, yeah.
You know, just like holding that like torch or whatever and doing that, I think is pretty cool.
It was believable, the way that she was doing everything and hammering everything and like cobbling together like different spoons and melting them down. It felt natural the way that new Sonic was created, even with the I forget the Tim Shaw's or Zim Shaw's like alien race name, but like she used his crystals in place of some other tech that she might have had on the TARDIS. So cool. I love that. All right, so end of the day, they figure out Zim Shaw's plot. but they don't really make that connection to like what his ultimate goal is until pretty much the end of the episode when they finally confront him. Like it fully comes together. What did you think about that in particular?
To me, the episode was more about the Doctor and the companions, and the villain. I don't think he's going to be like an iconic villain that we'll ever see again or really remember super distinctly. However, I didn't think he was like a bad villain. It just didn't seem like the episode was really focused around him in a weird way.
Right.
Like it just seemed kind of like he was almost like a background character, which usually the villain is very, paramount to
a story.
Yeah, it seemed more like they were just kind of like following his tracks, and at the end of the day, he was just some guy like hunting. Mm-hmm. But when it's humans, that's really bad. So
don't hunt humans.
Don't hunt humans is the moral of the story, I guess. And also don't be a cheater. That seemed to me like even more of a character flaw than him hunting humans. Like in the Doctor's mind, like she seemed more upset that he was a cheat. And then she said, like, you have the option, you can, like, you have choices. And I really liked the way that she had set that up, but, that didn't really pan out. But, yeah, I don't think Tim Shaw is going to be someone that we, like,
look back on and, like favorable light.
Yeah, like, I don't think we're ever going to be really thinking about him after this. It was more about the characters getting established and all kind of coming together, in general.
When Brian kicked Tim Shaw off the crane, she looked at him very sternly and said, "You had absolutely no right to do that," in her Yorkshire accent, which is I love her accent so much. I love her accent too. It's so great. Even like her colloquialisms are a little off. Like instead of like saying when you see something needs to be done, she goes, "When you see something needs doing."
She's very cute.
It's so cute. I love it. But what did you think of when she like kind of scolded him and said that?
Well, I think that was like a big part of her, grand plan. Like you think your kid, like you have the choice whether you want to detonate these without realizing they're attached to you. And he kind of messed that up. I think he had the right to protect himself. He didn't know her plan. The Doctor has a great history of not explaining their plan to anyone else. So eventually that will come back to bite you. Maybe lose the dramatic effect and tell some people, fill them in. I mean, she didn't have a chance to fill him in on the plan.
Right.
But I think he definitely had the right to do that. But I think she was just mad because she wanted it to be his choice. Mm-hmm. To whether he wanted to detonate the bombs or not. So I see in such like a, stressful moment, you're on this freaking crane and all this stuff's going on. Her plan just kind of got ruined. He thinks he's the hero saving the day. He's valued. He's important. And it was kind of like both of their objectives kind of clashed, even though they kind of were doing the same thing. So
right. They were both stopping the monster at the end of the day.
Yeah. But I think he had I don't think he didn't have the right to do what he did, because he had no idea what she was doing.
Well, I guess what she's saying is you have no right to take others' lives in your own hands.
To an extent, but you have the right to protect yourself if some dude's literally about to, hunt you and steal your teeth.
Yeah.
Come at me on a crane, try to take my teeth, you're getting kicked off. That's all I'm saying.
You have absolutely no right to do that.
You come at me trying to steal my teeth on a crane. If I can kick you, I'm kicking you. That's that. That's a wrap.
Fair enough. How is this in terms of, a first episode for the 13th Doctor and this new era of Doctor Who? Do you think it cemented in you connections to these new characters? How do you feel about the Doctor moving forward, and what do you hope to see in the coming episodes?
Ooh, that's a lot of questions.
It's a lot of questions. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the companions. Do you feel like you are personally attached or connected to the story and the lives of the companions at this point?
Yeah, I think I am.
So the episode,
in spite of what I said about Yaz, I do still like her. I really liked her puffy jacket. I thought that was so cute.
Character-wise, Jen.
Character-wise.
What did you think of her character?
I thought she was all right. I think she's all right. I think they left a lot ambiguous. It's not like we heard their whole life stories. The one that we know the most about is, what's his name? Ryan.
Right, yeah.
The one we know the most about is Ryan. So, the other two characters, I think there's still a lot left to learn, which I think is a good thing. I don't feel that, Ryan Ryan's Nan needed to die like that, but, you know, it is what it is. I don't think that it has, like, the, you know, memorability of, like, you know, the mannequin episode with Rose. No, I don't think it's like that. I don't think it was, like, a crazy strong episode, but I didn't think it was terrible either. You know, for Chibnall, it would have been nicer if he came in with more power, I guess. But I still have, like, a good feeling about this season, I guess I could say.
I was curious how Chibnall was going to, I guess, address the difference between what he did with Broadchurch and what he is going to do with Doctor Who. I was curious if there was going to be more of a bridge there, if, like, thematically it would feel a little similar or more dramatic almost than typical Doctor Who does. But I was pleasantly surprised that it felt like Doctor Who. Now, I say it felt like Doctor Who. A lot of people are saying that it doesn't feel like Doctor Who.
Really?
It feels like Doctor Who made by someone else.
It still felt like Doctor Who to me. Sorry.
It's hard to explain the feeling. Even the specifically, like, when Ryan finds that little capsule, the big capsule rather, and he touches it, and it's just so very alien and very... You don't see that a lot in Doctor Who nowadays. That's something that I feel like you would have saw a lot more in, like, the Third Doctor's era or the Fourth Doctor's era. It's a very, like, tactile thing, that, like, a plot device that they would have chosen in those in that era. And that's where Chibnall grew up, is watching the Third and Fourth Doctor. So that makes sense. But, like, with the other guy coming in and, like, taking the pod, which I have questions about myself, but, like, I feel like he kind of answers it in the video, so I won't get into that too much. It kind of, like, answers a little bit of that plot hole, like how he knew that was going to come at that point. But that whole side story it didn't feel like Doctor Who.
It felt like they were going to do more with it, but then they didn't. Right? Like, 'cause they even, like, there's a scene where they show, like, him and his sister, their pictures and stuff like that, so you kind of feel like, oh, this is going to be, like, he's going to be more of a character, and then it just kind of, like, that whole section kind of, like, falls flat.
It'd be interesting if they brought back Tim Shaw, actually. I don't think they will, obviously, but it would be interesting, like, if down the line we do get to see more of, like, what his ultimate goal was, like, in being a trophy, or, like...
Yeah, what was he trying to win exactly?
Will the Doctor save those humans that are currently, like, in a stasis between life and death as trophies on Tim Shaw's world?
Are they ever going to go to dentists to get, you know, veneers put in?
Questions.
Or will they just, like, take it out of his face? How is he attaching them to his face? Is it just, like... A lot of questions.
A lot of questions. But... ultimately, I think it was, if not a great first episode, a pretty good one. It cemented the Doctor to me, which is the episode's job.
That's the key. Yeah,
that is the episode's job, is to cement that this is the Doctor.
You're pointing your fingers pretty aggressively.
It's the wine. This is the Doctor. That's the episode's, like, sole goal. But it also kind of introduced you to the companions to be. And I thought that was really well done as well. The monster of the week is a monster of the week for a reason. I don't think...
I mean, I feel like the best Doctor Who episodes, the monster is very memorable. And that's why I was saying it, like, if the monster would have been more memorable, this would have been a much better episode. That's fair.
No, I'm not saying that the monster will be memorable or whatever. But I think the Doctor's first episode in general will be more memorable, say, than, like, David Tennant's first episode, where with, like, Christmas Invasion and, like, like the Santa Clauses that blow fire and stuff. It's okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're saying with all this too. Like, a lot of the, and we said that in our initial, like, gut reaction, a lot of the Doctor's first episodes aren't the best, because even the mannequin episode wasn't, like, fantastic, pun intended. But it, you know, you remember you remember more for the characters, I think.
Right.
Like, I remember more the dialogue between Rose and her mom, to be honest. Like, I really got a kick out of that.
Fair.
So
what I
those things I think we'll remember.
When I look back and look back at Rose, the first episode of New Doctor Who, I think back to the time when they're in like behind the buildings and they're walking, and Rose and the Doctor's introducing himself to Rose, and like how he remembers like everything that he's ever been through all at once, and like he's an alien who's seen like all of time and space, and he's explaining his mind to Rose, and she's just like following along. That's what hooked me to the show, is like those interactions between the Doctor and the companion. And I feel like with this episode, we did get a lot of that. Mm-hmm. The Doctor in this is very compassionate. You mentioned that several times. Like, she knows what to say when to say it.
And she also, too, another thing that we didn't touch on was how great she is at being blunt without ever feeling like she's being blunt. Like, she is really compassionate and really intuitive. And she's able to make people feel included while also kind of rejecting their ideas. And even at one point, like, she goes through this big, long speech, and then she, like, closes the drapes
over the companions.
Over their faces. Like, okay, like, I'm here to help you. That's what I'm doing. And this is my time. But she doesn't actually have to say that. Like, she's really great at, kind of like directing the situations like she can do what she's got to do in a really not rude way, which I admire and love and want to learn how to do because I'm super awkward. So that would be great. Like, if I want someone to leave my room and they're not leaving, or like if they're at my house and I don't know how to get them out, I'm super awkward. Like, I have no idea how to do that, but she does it really great. And I'm going to try to do that so I can get people the hell out of my house. Get up out of here. Or if I'm working and someone keeps talking to me, like, I'm just going to go on a big speech and then just start vigorously typing and just like...
I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about, like, panel etiquette. And this is going off a little bit on a tangent.
Wait, let me get more wine before we do this.
That
was unreal.
What I mean by panel etiquette is what to do when you are given the mic and you are confronting the people on stage. There was a lot of, like, in general, questions, or the people who go up to actually talk to the actors on stage are generally people who like to hear themselves talk. That's not always the case, and I don't want to just jumble everyone in there. I mean,
seeing as this Comic-Con, I actually did that for the first time. I would have been asked a question.
But you did ask a good question, and that's what I want to, like, get to the point of. Like, at the Doctor Who panel, I have never, ever been to a panel where 90% of all comments or questions were not even about the show. It wasn't even...
It was about them.
It was about either my experience...
One guy went on this whole thing about his story with his daughter, and like, oh, well, the Doctor's a girl now, too. Nobody, like, no offense, dude, but, like, put that on your blog. Put that on your YouTube channel.
It's a sweet story, but it's just not something you say in front of thousands of people.
But we're also here with the new showrunner and the Doctor. Like, there were so many good questions. We both had really good questions, but we just have such a hard time doing that, to be honest.
Where is this series going that we haven't seen before? What qualities of the Doctor do we get with your character? Where did you draw that information from? What monsters will we see recurring? There are so many questions I could just think of off the top of my head.
Or, about the fact that they've worked together before, how that helped. Did you have a big say in casting Jodie because you worked with her previously? Was the fact that you guys worked on a show together, like, did that make you guys work, more cohesively? Did that help the show and bring it forward? Or was it harder to break away from what you guys did in Broadchurch? How much advice did David Tennant give? A lot of big questions.
So many of the questions were the same question, first and foremost. How was it like being a woman and being, like, a feminist symbol in Doctor Who? There were over 10 questions that reworded that very question.
And you could tell Jodie was struggling
to find answers.
Because it was the same question. And I don't think any other real questions besides the one about dyspraxia, which her story I really liked.
It was relevant. Like, I get it. It's
and
awesome.
Chris Chibnall actually thanked her for saying that.
I want to just make mention, it is awesome that people are feeling represented. It's awesome that people feel like they're like attached to their favorite shows and movies in an all new way. But one thing that Jodie said in comment was the fact that she hopes this is just a passing thing, that we don't even remember that we're even asking all these questions about feminism or diversity. I love that so much because it's true. We shouldn't be commenting on this. It's a shame that we have to be. We were there for like 45 minutes worth of like people asking the people on stage questions, and you had. It was so frustrating. It was just. Yeah, I'm like at a loss for words at how
it was really upsetting.
Poor the quality of commentary on that like panel was. Like,
it was just a bunch of people who ran straight to the front and all had the same idea and thought it was original, and then like other people were saying it and they just, instead of coming up with another question, reworded it. The worst question that we got was a girl. Oh, this one was really bad.
See, this would have been a good question if she had her facts straight.
She didn't, and it was really awkward.
It was the
what
most
episodes did she
cringy.
mention?
It was the most cringy of all.
It was bad. She said basically, like, Chris Chibnall, you've written some of my favorite episodes in Doctor Who. Do you remember what episodes she said?
The Pandorica Opens and Silence in the Library, and both of those are Stephen Moffat stories.
And she said, like, how do you manage to have these overarching themes? And Chris Chibnall said, I didn't write any of those episodes, but that's why I really admire Stephen Moffat. Which is
a good answer.
Yeah, he actually he handled it in such a better way than so many people would have, but it was like brutally awkward.
And in an audience of like 5,000 people who all know that this is not Stephen Moffat, I felt so bad for the person, first and foremost.
She said, I think she knew it was Chris Chibnall. Or did she think that he was Stephen Moffat?
I think she thought it was Stephen Moffat.
Oh, that's so awkward. I thought that she thought Chris Chibnall wrote those episodes.
No.
That's even worse.
It was just total cringe. It was... Oh, man.
Like, I don't know, maybe future, panels, I might just run to the front because, maybe I'll say, the first question that pops into my head and it won't be some, like, either ridiculously uninformed question.
4 seasons in, how do you feel about diversity now, Chibnall? Come on, guys. I hope next year you guys better have some better questions.
And you could tell that they had known that question was going to come up.
Because they had so much planned.
They had planned answers, but then after they said their planned answers, it was like, well, now what? Like, and then somebody even asked, like, who are your characters that you, like, looked up to? And I thought it was interesting that Jodie Whittaker actually said male characters. Because it really shouldn't be about...
Not just male characters, but, like, child characters. And
yeah, which was really cool. She said basically
children.
She finds, children and stories to be really inspiring because often they're looked down upon as being, children. But a lot of times they're the most intuitive, person in the room. And she tried to, like, really, capture that in her portrayal of the Doctor, which I thought was kind of cool and interesting. The second watch, you could really see that in some ways. Like, she's very humble and open-hearted, which, are two qualities that I admire in children, and she definitely does capture that. But then when expressing, she's like, a lot of the characters that I looked up to weren't female because that's not, the situation we were in. The cool characters were boys. So, yeah, I see the point in, representation and all of that, but, there are a lot of other things that we could have talked about.
All right, guys, we've rambled so much. We had a lot of thoughts on the first episode, obviously, and we I know we're like a week late in getting this Who review out, but we wanted to get it out, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you've actually watched up to this point, I want you to start your comments or end your comments with "I am valued." I think that's a good way for us to determine if you've actually watched up to this point. But if you want to check out more Who review episodes, we can link that playlist down there for you to click. And you can go to any of the Who reviews that we've done in the past. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already for more Who reviews in the future. Tomorrow we have the next episode. I'm looking forward to it.
Very exciting. Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.